Right here, I have a tier list with every single FNAF release or announcement relating to the 10-year anniversary, in order actually. And today, I will be ranking all of these just in order from best to also pretty good, because let's be honest, none of these were necessarily bad. So starting off, we have Pop Goes. Now, because I already played the demo whenever it released like 1 or 2 years ago, I didn't necessarily bother playing the full release. I just kind of watched other people play it, also because I knew we were going to get some other games later on down the line, and I didn't want to spend too much money at once, even if it is for Freddy Fazbear. But nonetheless, I'm really happy for Kane Pixels and the amount of work he's put into my Pop Goes, and I'm glad to see some more fanfare stuff finally getting released. But even though this was very similar to the demo that released a little bit ago, I do think it was a good way to start off this anniversary, a good middle of the road starting point to just get us ready and hyped up for everything else that's also coming along the way, you know? Good old middle of the road B tier. Not the best, but also not bad. Not bad by any means. Anyways, moving on to even more fanverse stuff, the next day we had Joy of Creation's demo released. Now this one was really cool. I know a lot of us do share a bit of nostalgia when it comes to that original Joy of Creation, so that definitely does bring my bias a little bit more up. And this game is just very well made, very well animated, just very well everything pretty much. But nonetheless, there are still more stuff later on in here that we gotta rank that I do feel like I enjoyed better and was more excited about than Joy of Creation. So for now, I feel like Joy of Creation can sit in good old A tier. Really good, really well made, but there just is so much good stuff in this 10th anniversary that I feel like there's some other things that are going to be going in S tier instead, you know? But now, coming out of the fanverse and into the books, oddly enough, for day 3, we got the VIP interactive novel. Now, I honestly feel like one of the few people that was like really excited for this book, because even though I've never really cared much for the FNAF books, like Fazbear Frights, cool concept, I feel like it was kind of weirdly done, but you know, I can dig it. I read a few of those. But as for Tales of the Pizzaplex, yeah, I feel like the Tales from the Pizzaplex could have been way better handled than it ended up actually being. But this interactive book is different because there is a lot of reasoning behind the possibility that this book could be canon to the game's lore. And if any of y'all know me and my FNAF taste on this channel, y'all will know that one of my favorite things about FNAF recently is specifically the game's lore and what Steelwool is doing with it. So to see more lore involving the Pizzaplex that is actually most likely canonical with the actual games, I was really intrigued to see that and just really happy to get more of that. I'd feel bad for giving this one S tier because in A and B we have like a literal game release and like a really good demo of a game. And so it's like, would I really put a book above both of those? And so although I kind of feel like putting it in S tier, I'll move it down to A tier, simply just because, you know, at the end of the day, it is only like a book. But I mean, hey, at least it was free, you know. But next up, we have the Scott Coffin interview. Ooh, buddy, this one was a good one. I loved a lot of things about this new Scott Coffin interview. All the way from the little hints we got about the FNAF 4 box to him just casually mentioning stuff like FNAF World 2 or like a fetch video game. Just, there was so much interesting stuff. I especially appreciated the behind the scenes information we got behind stuff like Security Breach and especially like the FNAF movie. Whenever he told the whole story about Jason Blum messaging him while he was like all nervous and stuff, like whenever the FNAF movie released, that was all really interesting information. And it's just always a big treat whenever we see Scott actually talking about like the FNAF franchise and stuff, but that's like actually him in his voice talking about it. Like it's really rare to usually see him interact this much with like the fan base. So because of that, I think this can go straight onto S tier. Anyways, moving on to the collaboration, FNAF X Dead by Daylight. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't necessarily play much Dead by Daylight. There's been a few times where I've tried to like really get into it, especially just because it seems right up my alley. I'm a big horror movie guy, and to see this game that is collabed with like a lot of different slasher franchises and IPs, it seems like, you know, it would just be my kind of game. But I've never really had the chance or the opportunity to do like a full, like get into it, you know? Because of that, I've never really been too big of a fan of Dead by Daylight, but to be honest, I would prefer the crossover with Dead by Daylight over, you know, something as colorful and stuff as Fortnite. But to be completely honest, this collaboration may actually be the perfect excuse for me to finally get into Dead by Daylight and start playing more of that game, you know? And so I actually am pretty excited, even though maybe not as excited as some of you guys out there may be about this. I still only say B tier just because, you know, at the end of the day, it was just like one image we got. It was just like a little, like, just like making it official, like an official announcement. It wasn't like anything much besides that. It was literally like just one tweet, and that was it. Oh buddy, but next up we got The Secret of the Mimic, Steelwool's next big FNAF game that they will be working on. Oof, this, honestly, if y'all remember the lead up to the 10-year anniversary stuff, I was talking over and over again about how much I'm excited for Steelwool's announcement. Whatever the announcement is that they're going to do, whether it was a Help Wanted 2 DLC, whether it was a new game, I am super stoked for it. And even with the expectations I had, this still managed to literally blow me away. I've always been a super huge fan of the way Steelwool is handling the newer FNAF games, the way they like to sort of add on to the lore and like do their own spin on it while still paying respects to the old lore. I think all of that and the way they do that is very interesting, and the Mimic is definitely one of my favorite villains in the FNAF series. So just seeing this announcement alone, I feel like it just is enough to give it S tier. For me personally, I understand some of y'all may not like the Mimic as much as I do, or y'all may not appreciate the like Steelwool games as much as I do, and I get that, you know, they're not necessarily for everyone. It is quite different from like the classic FNAF stuff, but for someone like me who just really appreciates and really likes the new Steelwool stuff, I'm putting that in S tier. You know what, actually I'm putting it above the Scott interview. I'm sorry, Scott, I'm sorry. Which leads us to 5 Laps at Freddy's. Now for those of y'all who have been begging for a FNAF kart racer this whole time, I am really happy for y'all, like really, but I've just never really like cared too much for getting like some sort of FNAF lap racer game, you know? And especially getting into this demo specifically, whenever I got into it, a big issue I had is sort of figuring out what everything means. Like you have all these different power-ups, you have this weird robot wolf thing that like jump scares you, and trying to figure out like how to work all of that without any actual explanations the game seemed to give us. It just made the experience kind of confusing for me, so I don't know. I think I may put this in C tier. We got our first C tier, ladies and gentlemen. But now we have the big game itself, Into the Pit. I think this one is just right off the bat front of S tier. Like, come on, guys. Like, obviously it's up in S tier because it was like the actual biggest like game that released out of this whole FNAF 10-year anniversary thing. But also there's a different reason it's in S tier that you guys may not have realized. Whenever they first announced an Into the Pit video game, I was very skeptical. I was like, is it gonna be canonical with the other games? Is it not? Is it? I don't know. I was very hesitant about this. I was like, I don't know if this will be a good idea. But then the trailer released, and I was like, okay, that looks pretty cool, but it doesn't look like too big of a deal. Like, it's cool, I'll play it, but like, I'm not like super excited for it. And then whenever the game finally did release and I got to play it, my expectations, and I feel like the expectations of everybody else, were just blown away. I had no idea they could do so much with just the little Into the Pit premise. Into the Pit was actually one of the stories I did go out of my way to read from the Fazbear Fights collection. But yeah, just the sheer fact that it was able to blow away my expectations so much and be such a better game than I could have ever like thought it would be is like probably the biggest reason it is like top of S tier for me. Which leads us with one last thing. All of the FNAF 2 little updates we got. And we got a lot of these FNAF Movie 2 updates. Not only did did we get a shit ton of animatronic designs, which included Toy Chica. That's right, get your special sock out, weirdos. But Scott also did something that I thought was really clever. He gave us 3 different script pages, and 2 of those script pages were false, while one of them was genuinely real and gonna be in the FNAF movie too. And it's just such a cool and interesting way to sort of give off more, FNAF movie 2 news. And so because of that, I do think it belongs in S tier. Well, there you go. This is my official ranking for all of the FNAF 10th anniversary stuff that we got. Did you agree with my rankings? Did you disagree? Just let me know. Let me know down in the comments. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye bye.